Ladies and gentlemen, if I can ask you to stand please to welcome our new Lord Mayor, Councillor Colin Cook.
Thank you. Please be seated. I now have to make the formal acceptance of office. I, Colin Cook, having been elected to the office of Lord Mayor of Oxford City Council, declare that I take that office upon myself and will duly and faithfully fulfil the duties of it according to the best of my judgment and ability. Thank you. My Deputy Lord Lieutenant, Deputy Lord Mayor, City Sheriff, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to thank Alex and Ed for their very kind words and my fellow councillors for electing me Lord Mayor. This is my opportunity to say a few words about how I've ended up here today and why I've chosen to support Oxford Nightline and the Oxford Samaritans as my good causes in the coming year. When I first arrived in Oxford, I discovered I'd been lucky enough to be allocated one of the largest student rooms in the college. In Evelyn Waugh's Brideshead Revisited, Charles Ryder's uncle says the following: "I've seen many a man ruin through having ground floor rooms in the front quad. People start dropping in. They leave their gowns here and come to collect them before hall. You start giving them sherry. Before you know where you are, you've opened a free bar for all the undesirables of the college." I had that ground floor room. And I'd like to thank all those undesirables who've been able to join me here today. Now, whilst I remember serving more tea and coffee than sherry, by the end of my third term, with exams looming, I seemed to be a magnet for all my friends who were stressed out. I seemed to do a reasonable job of calming them down and packing them off back to their revision, and that most of them subsequently passed. But it was probably that experience which sowed the seeds of my decision to join the student helpline Nightline in my second year. I will gloss over the fact that I ploughed 2 out of the 3 first year exams that I took, but that's another story. Nightline taught me a great deal. You learn more by listening to someone than talking yourself. When you're talking to someone for the first time, you only get a tiny snapshot of what they've chosen to tell you about themselves. If you start making assumptions or offering advice, you can very quickly come unstuck. Talking with people rather than to people and helping them explore the options they are thinking about rather than foisting your own ideas and solutions on them is often more productive in the longer term. Nightline also opened my eyes to some of the desperate situations some students found themselves in. Nightline is one of the few student organisations which takes volunteers and callers from both the old university and Oxford Brookes University. Nightline is an a-directional, a-religious and apolitical organisation, and it always amuses me that I probably wouldn't have got involved in local politics unless one of the people who trained me for Nightline asked me to help out canvassing for him in Temple Cowley. I'm only sorry that former Councillor Dr. Bob Hoyle did not live long enough to join us here today. What my time in local politics has taught me is that there are a great many people in this city who have not had and have not been as fortunate as myself, either in the life choices they have made or the hand they have been dealt. And whilst politicians can try and address some of the root causes of that unhappiness, they often have little to offer those in immediate emotional crisis. Oxford is very fortunate to have a branch of the Samaritans based here in the city. They are the fourth largest branch in the country, with over 150 volunteers. They opened their doors in 1963 and have remained open continuously, 24/7, 365 days a year, ever since. They are an entirely voluntary organisation providing confidential emotional support for people who are experiencing feelings of distress or despair, including those which may lead to suicide. I think it's a common misconception that they are only there to talk to people who are contemplating suicide, a misconception that I hope to work with them to dispel over the coming year. I first visited the Samaritans up on Magdalen Road 4 weeks ago and was met by someone who was clearly an experienced volunteer. I introduced myself as the Lord Mayor-elect of Oxford and asked if the Samaritans would like to be one of my nominated charities. It became clear that although the volunteer clearly accepted that I believed I was going to be the next Lord Mayor of Oxford, he might need a little bit more evidence of my bona fides before he would believe it himself. That being sorted, he graciously accepted my offer. Representatives of Oxford Nightline and the Samaritans are here this evening, so do feel free to talk to them about their work. As I said earlier, I have been very lucky in some of the life choices I've made, and one of those was on the 1st of January 2011, when I asked my beautiful wife Helen to marry me. Who would have thought I would have the luck to marry a future Lady Mayoress of Oxford? Friends tell us that we behave as though we've been married for over 30 years, instead of just the 7 that we have, which at least I take as an enormous compliment. The Lady Mayoress and I are very proud to be helping 2 such worthy causes this year, and we're both very grateful for the opportunity to represent this city over the coming year. Thank you. My first duty as your Lord Mayor is the election of Deputy Lord Mayor and Sheriff for the coming civic year. And I now call on Councillor Mary Clarkson to propose Councillor Sajid Malik as Deputy Lord Mayor for the coming year.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and many congratulations to you and to Helen on your election. And I hope very much that you have a very happy and eventful year ahead. Deputy Lord Lieutenant, Lord Mayor, Deputy Lord Mayor, Sheriff, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to propose Councillor Sajid Malik as Deputy Lord Mayor for the next council year. Saj and I have been councillors together since he was first elected to the City Council in 2004. During this time, he has been a vocal supporter of the people he represents in Cowley Marsh. Saj served on the City Council's Executive Board in its early days and has been very involved in policing and community safety. He is also a great cricket fan and used to play, I understand, for the Oxford Nondescripts. In his year as sheriff, though, he swapped cricket for the game of Aunt Sally with great success. Sarge hails from the historic city of Multan in South Punjab in Pakistan. He moved to the UK in 1989. He lived in London first of all, then worked in various towns, and while he was working in Brighton, a friend of his asked him to work in an Indian restaurant in the High Street in Oxford. That was nearly 30 years ago, and it has been to Oxford's great benefit that Sarge has chosen to stay and make his home here. He has a great sense of humour, as well as the courage to speak out on the things which he feels strongly about. With his cheery approach and willingness to get involved in things, I know that he will be an excellent Deputy Lord Mayor for Councillor Cook. Sarge, I wish you the very best for the year ahead. I know that you will be very ably supported by Jamila, and I'm sure that Aisha, Khadija and Ibrahim will end the year with some wonderful memories of your term in office, and I'm sure that you will do the City of Oxford very proud.
I now call on Councillor Susan Brown to second the nomination.
Congratulations, Lord Mayor. My Deputy Lord Lieutenant, Lord Mayor, Deputy Lord Mayor, City Sheriff, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, and fellow quiz team members. First of all, I look forward to serving in your quiz team, Lord Mayor. But I am here today to be delighted to second the nomination for Sarge Malik to become Deputy Lord Mayor. Sarge has already held the distinguished office of Sheriff of this city, fulfilling that role in 2015-16. I had the misfortune to follow Sarge as Sheriff the following year, and I found him a hard act to follow, particularly in the important duty of the annual Aunt Sally match, which has already been mentioned. This match takes place between the Freemen of Oxford and the Sheriff's team. For those who are not aware, Aunt Sally is a traditional Oxfordshire game where sticks are thrown at a dolly, and in my experience it is not easy. Sarge being Sarge, he approached the match with his usual competitive edge. I may be wrong, but I suspect he had not necessarily played that much Aunt Sally before that particular match, but I also have a suspicion that he may have been practicing because he was very successful in that match, and indeed actually managed to score, which, believe you me, and I have tried, it is very difficult to do. So I definitely suspect some secret practicing. Sarge did not make the amateurish mistake that I did of scraping together a team of council colleagues, who all turned out not to be very good at playing Aunt Sally. In fact, they were fairly hopeless, if I'm honest. So those that were not a public danger. But as you will know, Sarge is a taxi driver and used his contacts amongst that august group to pull together a team of experienced Aunt Sally players from among his fellow drivers. They proved to be considerably more skilled, and for the very first time in a long time, the Sheriff's team actually drew the match, a feat not repeated by my team, nor I suspect by any team since. Sarge is lucky to have the support of his wonderful wife, Jamila, who I hope will enjoy the role of Deputy Lord Mayoress. I know that Aisha, Khadija and Ibrahim will be proud of their father as he takes on his second prestigious office representing our city. Although if they're anything like my daughters, he may need to promise never under any circumstances to let on to their schools or fellow students that he holds such a role. I'm sure your secret is safe with us. Sarge, I hope that you and your whole family are able to enjoy the year and that you have an opportunity to visit some of Oxford's other twin cities now that you've visited Perm as Sheriff and managed to get there without mishap. So well done and congratulations and good luck.
I now call on councillors to vote. Can I see all those in favour? That looks to be unanimous to me. Thank you very much. Congratulations.
I, Sajjad Malik, have been elected to the office of Deputy Lord Mayor of Oxford City Council, declare that I take the office upon myself and will duly and faithfully fulfill the duty of it according to the best of my judgment and ability.
Congratulations. Well done. I now call on Councillor Nigel Chapman to propose Councillor Craig Simmons as Sheriff for the coming civic year.
First of all, may I congratulate you, Lord Mayor and Deputy Lord Mayor, on your new roles. My Deputy Lord Lieutenant, Lord Mayor, Deputy Lord Mayor, City Sheriff, distinguished guests, and ladies and gentlemen. It is a genuine pleasure to propose Councillor Craig Simmons to be the next Sheriff of the City of Oxford. From the many endorsements on the Oxford Green Party website, I read he is much admired and respected by his local constituents, who he has served with great enthusiasm and energy for over 20 years. And we all know that every word on the Green website passes the truth test. Moreover, and this will be my only reference to the recent election results, it is a bit of a case of needs must, as I assume Craig cannot nominate himself, and Councillor Reverend Dick Wolfe may have a hotline to the Almighty, but even he cannot both propose and nominate the same person. So it's a case of labour to the rescue again. But joking aside, Craig becoming our next sheriff is richly deserved. I have served briefly with him on various scrutiny groups and can pay testament to his intellect and his uncanny ability to ask the most searching questions, as well as graciously seeing where there is common ground between the parties. As chair of scrutiny from 2014 to 2016, he, by all accounts, transformed the committee, enabling the public to have a big voice in its process and making suggestions for improving the way we do things, over 85% of which were approved by the Executive Board. Now, Craig sits near me in the Council, and when he opens up his notebook with his meticulous set of prepared notes, I'm glad the questions are not coming from me. He is an adopted son of East Oxford, living with Elise and his family at its heart, and taking on roles which demonstrate his passion for the place and its unique character. These include his unflinching support for the Cowley Road Carnival, Low Carbon East Oxford, the East Oxford Farmers Market, not the carbon market, and the local car club, which I guess must be low emissions only, Craig. His achievements in local government, both as a county councillor for St Clements and a city councillor for St Mary's, are significant. As a county councillor, he led the fight to get the funding to make massive improvements to the Cowley Road a decade ago, including the 20-mile-an-hour limits, which brought a big drop in traffic accidents and saved many lives. And working with East Oxford Action, he championed a multi-million-pound regeneration project, which has made the area a community which is always interesting, edgy, and full of diversity. Craig has been an innovator. He persuaded our City Council finance team to invest funds in social enterprises and local charities like St Mungo's, which help us fight homelessness, but also make decent returns for us at a time when the Tories are cutting all our central government grant. I think we would all agree this is a much better policy than investing in fossil fuels, a fight he also successfully led to ensure Oxford City Council disinvested in these three big polluters in 2015. Now, this is a terrific record for a politician operating from the opposition benches and reflects the respect and attention Craig's ideas generate across the political spectrum. And all this while building up a world-class Anthesis consultancy company. Anthesis, Craig told me, is the productive flowering stages of a plant's life. And everyone would agree his local government career is still flowering after 2 decades and is destined to do so for many more years to come. Now, Craig has roots in Essex, but there's no doubt Oxford suits him very much better. More Remain and less Brexit. He's rightly proud of his achievements, as are his family who are here today. A special welcome to Berry, his daughter, Jeff and Cynthia, his mum and dad, who have come from Leigh-on-Sea, his sister Fiona, and of course his partner Elise Benjamin, who is well known to all of us as a former Lord Mayor and a long-standing city councillor east of the city. Craig told me that when Elise was sheriff, she used to wear a sheriff's badge at home. Craig says he does not plan to follow suit, but says he is looking forward to representing the city, fostering international relationships, and being a Europhile, fighting Brexit to the bitter end, as he put it to me, in this most remain of cities. I asked him if he would like to be the Lord Mayor one day. As one of the serial refuseniks, I could see him warming to the idea, having been Deputy Lord Mayor in 2014. He definitely did not never say never. But I may be running ahead of myself a little bit here, as we're talking about the sheriff today. I leave the last word to one of Craig's endorsers on the Green Party web pages. The vulnerable and the disadvantaged need a strong voice. Craig is that voice. He works tirelessly for the local community, committed, conscientious and fearless. If we needed a campaign slogan, I'm confident that Craig for Sheriff would be warmly welcomed and the motion would be carried nem con. It has been a pleasure to propose him to be our next Sheriff of Oxford and to celebrate all he has and continues to do for this great city, a city we and he all love.
I now call on Councillor Ray Humberstone to second the motion.
Deputy Lord Lieutenant, honoured guest, fellow councillors, and congratulations, Colin. About time. When you second someone, it's great because the other guy's done all the work. All I've got to do now is fill in a few of the cracks, and the way I can do it is when I was Lord Mayor. Did I tell you I used to be Lord Mayor? We went to the first 10 days. I was whisked off to Bonn, and we had a fantastic time. And Craig went along with Elise. And when you become Lord Mayor, they say, "Well, you're apolitical," and you think, "Yeah, okay, yeah." But it's true. Politics is off the table, and you learn to see people as human beings and not this. So for 4 days, we had a fantastic time and we had a good laugh and we really got to know each other. And it was a pleasure rather, to have got to know Craig and Elise in that way. And we had quite a few, Meryl was there as well, we had quite a few adventures, and Craig was able to witness one of the greatest acts of self-sacrifice I've ever seen. When Jean prevented me, from the words of the late Val Coulter, becoming Oxford's 5th martyr. We were having a dinner, and I was backing towards a lighted candlestick. And I was suddenly aware that there's a presence behind me, and it was Jean, rescuing me from the flames. And it's things like that you remember, and you remember because you're with people like Craig. And it's just very heartwarming to see people as they really are. Then we get back into the council chamber and it's gloves on, no quarter given. So it's with great pleasure and an honour to second Craig Simmons as our Sheriff.
Can I see all those in favour of Craig for Sheriff? Thank you, that looks to be unanimous. Craig, congratulations.
So I now have to read the declaration, and thank you, Nigel and Ray, for your kind words. I, Craig Simmons, having been appointed to the office of Sheriff of Oxford City Council, declare that I take the office upon myself, will duly and faithfully fulfil the duties of it according to the best of my judgment and ability.
Thank you. I now call on Councillor Andrew Gant to propose a vote of thanks to the outgoing civic office holders. Thank you.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Very many congratulations on three thoroughly well-deserved elections and appointments. Deputy Lord Lieutenant, Lord Mayor, Deputy Lord Mayor, Sheriff, fellow councillors, distinguished guests, friends. It's my very pleasant duty to record the sincere thanks not just of this council but of all the people of Oxford to the civic office holders for the year 27 to 18. Sheriff Councillor Mohammed Altaf Khan, Deputy Lord Mayor Councillor Christine Sim and Lord Mayor Councillor Jean Fuchs. Of course, we all know that the civic offices are demanding high-profile roles. There are many colleagues in this room who have first-hand experience of that, which I, of course, do not. But as a relative newcomer, it's only really been watching my friends and colleagues up close over the last couple of years that I have begun to appreciate just how true that is. Or to put it in another way, if Jean says something is tiring, then it probably is. But of course the importance of it is that it represents something very special to the people visited and supported by the office holders in an official capacity. That's why so many people ask for them. That's why we need 3 of them. I have a very small personal insight into that, the touch of glamour that such a visit can bring. A charity where I'm a trustee put on an event some months ago involving a performance with a large number of young people, and Jean came along in her capacity as Lord Mayor. So I found myself in the slightly surreal position of standing on the steps in my capacity as a trustee, welcoming my friend and colleague in her capacity as Lord Mayor. But it was very interesting to note the buzz that the presence of such a grand dignitary gave to everybody involved, not just to the children, but to all the staff as well. It made them feel special, it made them feel noticed, it made them feel valued, and of course, Jean did a wonderful job on the day. The briefest trawl through stories in the press gives a tiny insight only into the many activities undertaken by Christine as Deputy, supporting an excellent initiative aimed at opening up issues around mental health, taking part in the Relay for Life for cancer patients and their families, unveiling a war memorial, and there have been many, countless indeed, others. Altaf, of course, went straight from a highly successful and busy year as Lord Mayor into his year as Sheriff, so we owe him thanks for a long stretch of public service. There is so much more to being Sheriff than just being ignored by a cow on Port Meadow at the crack of dawn, although successive sheriffs have shown themselves to be very good at that. Altaf has particularly asked me to note the closeness of the value that he's put on his working relationship with the Freemen. But of course, just listing some of the events undertaken by the office holders does not begin to convey the dignity, the grace and the skill with which they have unfailingly been undertaken. On paper, it all looks like good fun, and I'm sure that some of it is, but it's also very hard work. Every weekend, sometimes 3, 4, 5 events in a single day. Looking back at Jean's year as Lord Mayor, I came across a report of her very first day. It was described in the press at the time as a whirlwind, which is probably not a bad description of the office holders' year, all 3 of them. On that very first day, Jean showed Prince Charles and the Duchess of Cornwall around their covered market, and then off to Cutterslow for a meeting of the Community Association. And that seems to me to pretty well sum up the nature and the variety of the contribution which all of our office holders in all years make to our city, and how lucky we are to be able to call on the services of such dedicated and hard-working public servants year after year. It's a very great pleasure and a great honour to be able to extend on behalf of this council and city my thanks to Jean, to Christine and to Altaf.
I now call on the Sheriff to second the vote of thanks.
As well as being the sheriff, I get the honour of thanking the outgoing office holders. So, Deputy Lord Lieutenant, Lord Mayor, Deputy Lord Mayor, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. So it is my pleasure to thank the outgoing civic office holders for their years of service to the city, and particularly Altaf now is 2 years. And so in preparing the speech, as you say, the proposer said it all. So I actually emailed all of them and said, tell me something funny that happened to you, or a treasured moment. And so I had some interesting responses back. Well, the Lord Mayor, former Lord Mayor, Jean, was troubled, I think, by both semantics and potential sort of unconscious gender bias, and maybe also a little bit of something lost in translation as a female Lord Mayor. And I know you had a particular problem in Leiden when taxi drivers were looking for a male and your daughter rather than you, and causing all sorts of problems in what, by all accounts had the makings of a good farce. And I think, apart from causing confusion wherever you went in Leiden, it seems to me, but I was actually thinking sort of Jean actually works in both languages on both sides of the channel, so maybe that was the root of some of the confusion. And you also told me that later you referred to as Lord Fuchs, which I think has a certain ring about it, actually. Maybe that's something for the future. But I suspect Colin won't have any of these same problems as he takes on the duties. Altaf, as outgoing sheriff, also told me, he gave me a tip as an incoming sheriff. He said, if the cattle won't behave on Port Meadows, they didn't for him and ran around everywhere, and when he tried to corral them, just give up and go for breakfast. So I think that's really good advice, and I will take note. Christine's recollections, I think, as Deputy Lord Mayor, rang true very much with my own feelings when I was Deputy Lord Mayor at the end of the year, when I look back, and it's been touched on already. You were very touched, as I was, about the amazing amount of volunteer work that goes on, day in, day out in the city, largely unnoticed. And the office of Lord Mayor, whether it's Deputy Lord Mayor or Sheriff, gives you access to that amazing group of volunteers that really keep the city running. And they don't do it, for trying to get their own publicity or their own sort of profile. They really do it because they care so much about the city. And I think the opportunity to go and shine a bit of light on those organisations, those individuals, is something really worthwhile that civic office holders do, and these civic office holders did to great effect. So thank you for that as well. With that, I'd just like to finally thank all those outgoing office holders for your own tireless efforts, as well as the volunteers you've shined a bit of light on. And so congratulations, and now you can have a little bit of a rest.
I'd like to add my thanks to the outgoing chain gang, as they're called. In a break with tradition, when we leave to go to the reception, there will not be a receiving line. We think it more important that you get a drink and something to eat rather than waiting to shake our hands. But do feel free to come up to us at any point during the evening if you would like to shake our hands. We would only be too grateful. Well, I'll try and keep one of them free. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the formal part of the business today. Thank you.